Right. Hello. Hi, everyone. Hello, English readers. Welcome to this new week of live read along of Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. So this is our final week of reading Wuthering Heights. I'm saying Wuthering Heights, the adaptation of the original book, of course. It takes much more than 3 weeks to read Wuthering Heights. I mean, depends how fast and how much time you have to read, but you can definitely read Wuthering Heights in 3 weeks, the original book, but that means that you've got either you're a fast reader or you've got plenty of time to read, have the time to read. We are reading here in this book club, we are reading the adaptation for English readers of Wuthering Heights. This adaptation has been published by Penguin Readers. I really love their adaptations. It's been I don't know, I've got 4 or 5 books now from them, and they are so well structured and well thought that I only use them so far. I've used Oxford Bookworms as well, but with the adaptation of Little Women, but unfortunately, it was only part 1 of the book, and I was quite disappointed. I'm not sure if I would buy again Oxford Bookworms adaptations. I'm not sure if they will maybe republish a new version of their first publications or old publications. So in the meantime, I'd rather to use those adaptations, and they are so well illustrated as well. There are lots of little illustrations to help you understand the book and understand the story. So I think that's very helpful too. And the little questions at the end and at the beginning of the story, and the vocabulary as well. So yeah, I highly recommend those adaptations of original novels and original classics of English literature or American literature, and also adaptations of contemporary novels. So that's why I really like them. So yeah, here we are. We are reading today chapter 11 of the story, and so far, so if you're just catching up on the reading of the book, so is this book is around mainly 2 characters, Heathcliff and Catherine. They grew up together. They're not brothers and sisters, but they grew up in the same house. And Heathcliff has suffered a lot over the years, because he was not really liked by his stepbrother, or Catherine's brother, I would say. And he always mistreated him and was very hitting him and was very violent with him, verbally violent as well. So he's been suffering a lot of the the violence and the way Hindley behaved with him. And Catherine, in the contrary, was really in love with him. I mean, secretly in love. They only revealed their love to each other when Catherine was on her deathbed. Let's say she was pregnant at the time, but from another man. Hi, Kitty, welcome. I hope you had a beautiful weekend. And hi, and that you're excited about reading the last chapters of Wuthering Heights this week. So I'm just quickly finishing the little recap of the story so far. So Catherine, unfortunately, yay, it was nice. I had a very nice weekend too. It was the birthday of one of my cousin, so we had to travel to do a little bit of travel to go there. So I spent the weekend with family basically. So it was lovely, nice to see everyone and spend some time. And the weather was so nice as well. We were so lucky to have the weather with us, not the rain. So it was great. It was a great weekend. So let's if it's nice, yeah. Did you have a nice weekend too? So let's now move on with let's go back to what I was saying. And Heathcliff and Catherine's love story. So Catherine was pregnant at the time that she died. She gave birth she died in childbirth. So it was a very sad moment for her husband, Mr. Edgar Linton, and of course Heathcliff too. Hi, Pedro. Welcome to this live. I hope you're well. So I'm doing a quick recap of the story of Wuthering Heights. So I was just saying that Catherine and Heathcliff had a very tormented love story, and they only revealed their love to each other when Catherine was actually dying. She was very weak, and also she had sort of no dementia, but she would hear voices, and she would start to have some delirium and have a kind of a troubled mind. And this is also what caused as well her death. She was very weak, learning that Heathcliff went away to get married with Isabella, Edgar Linton's sister, so the Catherine's sister-in-law. So everything that was related to Heathcliff and her relationship with him kind of had an impact on her well-being and mental health. I went to the museum and met friends. The weekend was relaxing. Oh, nice. Nice thing to go to the museum. That's great. It's been a while I haven't been to the museum. And yeah, I definitely need to take the time to do some museums again. Yeah, I need to do that at some point too. Yeah, so that's what happened with Catherine and Heathcliff. So of course Heathcliff is completely devastated after the loss of Catherine, and he's going to start being very violent towards his wife, his new wife. I mean, it's not another wife, but it's just he's very recently married to Isabella, and he was kind of hiding a little bit his real self, just to attract Isabella, or just showing her his only his good side, until they got married. And a few weeks later, Catherine died, and then he started to get very abusive towards Isabella. And so she escaped, she left Wuthering Heights, and she moved away in a different city, and she gave birth to their son called Linton. And at some point she also died, and I think it's 12 years later she died. And at that point Edgar Linton then decided to get back her son, to look after her son. But soon after Heathcliff learned about the fact that Linton was back at Thrushcross Grange, he wanted his son back. So he got his son and back to his house. But Linton is a kind boy, but is quite weak, and thin. So he doesn't have a very strong body, and he's quite often sick. So he's very fragile boy, and contrary to what's his name, Hareton, so many children and characters, contrary to Hareton, who is Hindley's son, and this young man is actually quite a healthy, strong boy, and Heathcliff quite like him. And even if he doesn't really show him, but because he's kind of he's sort of a wild beast, Heathcliff, and doesn't show his feelings, but he is attached to that boy. And because Hareton lost his parents, Hindley and his wife, they both died in the space of maybe 10 years or something like that. So Hareton is a little bit older than Cathy and Linton. Is maybe, I think is about 3 years older. Yeah, I think is probably 16, yeah, 15 or 16. And when Linton is taken away from when Heathcliff get his son back, let's say. So yes, that's about it. So Cathy is Catherine and Edgar Linton's daughter, and she grew up in a very nice and quiet house, but she didn't know until she turned 12 years old. She didn't know about Wuthering Heights and Heathcliff and her cousin Hareton. She didn't know about them. And it's by accident when she just went on a walk on the moor that she with her dog, and the dog went away to started a fight with Heathcliff's dog, and this is where she or when she met for the first time Hareton, and she didn't know that he was her cousin. So there was a little bit of a quiproquo or misunderstanding between the two of them in their first encounter. And then she discovered that she had another cousin, and his name was, and it was Hareton. And we stopped on Friday at chapter 10, in which we learn that Cathy and Linton are very getting very close to each other, and they start writing letters to one another, and they're actually love letters. They actually fell in love, sorry, and they start having this correspondence. But Edgar Linton stops this ask Catherine to stop their correspondence, because he doesn't like the fact that she is that she he doesn't want her daughter to marry Heathcliff's son. So and be sort of related to Heathcliff in any way, because Edgar hates Heathcliff. So we stopped at the point which Catherine then stopped writing to, they both stopped writing to each other. But at some point, Edgar allowed his daughter to write to him again, because Linton is very ill, and she wants to, and she started visiting him as well, and she wants to make sure that he's getting better, or that just looking after him. And at that point, her father agrees again to let her write the letters again and to visit him. So this is where we stopped. And Mr. Linton as well gets quite sick, quite sick, and he doesn't get better. Yes, and what was the thing? Oh yeah, Mr. Linton agrees Linton to visit her daughter, but actually Linton is too weak and not in a good health that Heathcliff would rather Cathy to come to Wuthering Heights instead of the opposite. What was it? So a few days later, he got a reply. Mr. Heathcliff did not want Linton to visit Thrushcross Grange. But he was happy if he and Miss Cathy met on the moor. Okay, so Heathcliff rather for them to meet on the moor rather than at Thrushcross Grange. Mr. Linton was, of course, too ill to go with Cathy. You can write to Linton again, he said, and perhaps in the summer I will allow you to meet him again. Sorry, I was a bit confused. So they stopped their correspondence, and then because Linton was very lonely, then she asked her father if she could visit him, but he didn't allow her to visit him, but to write him again. That was fine. Yes, so that's it. Now let's read the chapter. Chapter 11. Sorry. It was late, a terrible wedding. It was August before Edgar finally allowed Cathy and me to meet Linton. Me, it's Nelly who is telling the whole story to Mr. Lockwood. Remember, it's a narrative within a narrative. So the overarching narrator is Mr. Lockwood, who asked Nelly to tell him the story of Mr. Heathcliff and the other members of the family of Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange. So it's Nelly here talking. We started out one morning on a warm grey day, but we found Linton a long way from where we had agreed to meet him, and he was near Wuthering Heights. He was lying on the grass and did not lift his head until we came close. Cathy looked at him with surprise and grief. "Your health is worse," she said. "No, it's better, better," he cried and took her hand. "I'm just tired. It's too hot." The two spoke for some minutes, but Linton did not seem interested in the conversation, and he kept looking nervously at Wuthering Heights. He seemed frightened of something and was not always listening to his cousin. What is making him so nervous? I thought. "I think that you must go home," Cathy said, finally. "You will be more comfortable there, and I cannot make you laugh today." They agreed to meet again in a week's time. During that week, Mr. Linton's illness suddenly got much worse, and Cathy did not want to leave him. She spent all her time with her father, helping him to sit or just sitting next to him. Finally, Mr. Linton made her go to meet her cousin because he wanted her to be outside and happy. Linton was lying on the grass at the same place where we had met him before, but as we reached him, he turned towards Wuthering Heights with a frightened look. Then we saw Mr. Heathcliff coming over the hill. He did not look at Linton or Cathy, but straight at me. "Is it true, Nelly?" he asked. Is Edgar Linton dying?" Yes, he is. Yes, he is dying," I replied, "and I don't know how long he will live." So you have your little illustration of Nelly here, Cathy, and Edgar, and Linton, and that's Heathcliff coming here towards them. So you can see on the picture, on the drawing here, that Linton is quite tired, or you can see his weakness on the picture. I'm asking this question because my son is going to die before me. That's straightforward. Heathcliff said, and I would like his uncle to die before him. Your son should not be here, Mr. Heathcliff. He should be in bed, and a doctor should see him. He will be in a day or two, replied Mr. Heathcliff. And then he turned to Linton. Get up, boy. Linton's face was pale and frightened. Take my hand, shouted Mr. Heathcliff. Miss Linton, give him your arm. Please, help me get him home. But I can't go to Wuthering Heights, Cathy whispered. Father said I mustn't. But Linton took Cathy's hand and cried and begged her to come with her. I could not stop her, and how could I say no? We did not know what was making him so frightened and unhappy, but we did not want to make him worse. Cathy walked into the kitchen and made Linton sit in a chair next to the dresser. Then Mr. Heathcliff pushed me forward, looked to the door behind me, and took the key. You will have tea before you go, he said. Zillah, Elton, and Joseph are out tonight, and I'm alone. Miss Cathy, I'm going to give you a present. I know it's not a good present, but it's all I have to give you. Why are you staring at me like that? Cathy moved towards him, her eyes bright and angry. I'm not frightened of you, she said. Give me that key. I will have it. If I don't step back, I will hit you, he shouted. But she caught his hand and tried to pull his fingers away from the key. Heathcliff took her hair and then hit her repeatedly around the head. When I saw him to do this, I ran at him. Stop it! Stop it! I shouted, but it hit me too, so that I couldn't breathe properly. I fell back to the floor as Cathy put her hands to her head and began to shake. Then she began to cry. Father wants Cathy and me to be married, said Linton. Father wants Cathy and me to be married, said Linton quietly. He's worried that I might die if we wait. So we must get married in the morning. After you do this, you can go home and take me with you. Marry? I replied, and I started to shake him hard. Are you mad? Do you think a beautiful, healthy young girl like her will marry a weak thing like you? That's quite harsh to say. Linton started to groan and then to cry. Please, Cathy, save me, he begged. Let me come to Thrushcross Grange with you. You must say yes to my father. You must. What can I do? Asked Cathy. If I stay, father will be worried and unhappy. He will think that I have betrayed him. Mr. Heathcliff, let me go home. I promise I will marry Linton. Good, said Mr. Heathcliff. I want your father to be unhappy, and you will keep your promise, because I will not allow you to leave this place until you have married Linton. Send Nelly then. Send Nelly then, begged Cathy. She can let father know that I'm safe. Or marry me now. Oh, Nelly, what should I do? Miss Cathy and Linton were married the next morning. That's quite a shotgun. No, what's the expression? A shotgun marriage, I would say. Miss Cathy and Linton were married the next morning, but Mr. Heathcliff betrayed us and kept us locked in at Wuthering Heights for 5 days. On the 6th morning, he let me go and ran across the moor to Thrushcross, and I ran across the moor to Thrushcross Grange to get help. Poor Mr. Linton. Poor Mr. Linton was now very ill and waiting for his death. He lay in bed with his eyes closed, whispering Cathy's name. Then soon after, Cathy appeared and threw her arms around my neck, crying, Nelly, 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 his father's still alive. Yes, I said. Yes, he is. Thank God you're safe again. I watched her run to her father's room, but I didn't go in with her. Instead, I waited outside quietly while they spent their last hours together. She put her arms around him and he looked into her eyes. Then he whispered, I'm going to your mother, my child, and you will come to us. He didn't speak again after that, and a little later, he died. The evening after the funeral, he spoke about the future. Maybe Cathy could live at Thrushcross Grange with Linton, and I could stay with them as housekeeper. I knew that I was hoping for a lot, but it was possible. Suddenly, a servant came running into the room and shouted, Mr. Heathcliff is here. Mr. Heathcliff did not knock on the door, but Mr. Heathcliff did not knock on the door, but came straight in. Cathy rose from her chair and started to run, but he caught her arm and shouted, Stop! I've come to take you home. I need you there to look after my son. Please, I said, why don't you let them live here? You don't like them and won't miss them. I want a tenant for Thrushcross Grange, he replied, and I want to have my children with me. Get ready now, and don't make me wait. Cathy went upstairs and left me alone with Heathcliff. If I can't stay here, then let me come to Wuthering Heights, I said. Let me have Zillah's job. But he would not agree. Then he started to walk around the room, looking at the pictures until he came to one of Cathy's mother. I will have that, he said, and he took it down. Then he turned and said with a strange smile, I'll tell you what I did last night, Nelly. I went to her grave and took away the earth. Then I opened the coffin and I wanted to see her face again. So you can see here the picture of Heathcliff and here the coffin. And you can see the tomb here, the tombstone. So quite, I would say, frightening to, kind of a strange thing to, it's quite extreme to go back to the grave and then dig up the body and open the coffin. You're a terrible man, Mr. Heathcliff. You must not disturb the dead, I said. And of course, and also, it's also, I mean, it's a Christian um, when you're, I mean, at the time, religion was very important. And um, even today, it's not something that you will do. It's kind of um, uh, against the law and against, you know, the all reason to do that. And the fact that he did open her coffin and excavated the coffin, it's not something that is acceptable. We take him for a madman. I disturbed nobody, he replied, but her ghost has disturbed me night and day for 18 years. So to him, he's done nothing wrong, but it's the contrary. It's Catherine who disturbed him, in fact, for haunting him all those years. So what he did was just the right thing to do. And well, what he did was nothing um compared to the all the bad, um compared to the fact that she's haunting him. So Mr. Heathcliff stopped speaking and put his hand to his face. Then Cathy came back and said that she was ready. Goodbye, Nelly, she whispered, and she kissed him, and she kissed me. Please, please come and see me. Don't forget. She will not come and see you, shouted Mr. Heathcliff to Cathy. I do not want Nelly coming to my house and talking about us to other people. Then he turned to me. If I want to see you, Nelly, then I will come here. End of the chapter. Well, well. Tell me what you think, Katie, about this chapter. Well, again, we've got the death of Mr. Linton, Edgar Linton, in this chapter. So over the 14 chapters that we're reading, there's almost death each chapter, if not two deaths. So here there is the tragic loss of Cathy. Cathy has to cope with two very two difficult life choices. Or I mean, she's got to choose between her marrying Linton and see her dad and look after her dad. So she's put in this position by Heathcliff. He put her in a very difficult dilemma, and she, I guess, did the best that she could. What do you think you would have done in this situation? Would you have accepted to marry Linton in the rush like that, or not? So you can see here the terrible way Heathcliff is behaving with people, how he forces Cathy to marry his son. Even though they are in love, um, he's kind of pushing the alliance a little bit too soon, and he's very harsh with his. I would trust. I wouldn't trust him. You mean would not, or you would trust him? You wouldn't, maybe. um. Yeah, and it feels like again Heathcliff continues to be very manipulative and calculated person with his the way he's thinking about this wedding so that they get married before Linton dies. So hi Ada, welcome. We finished the reading of chapter 11, and now we're just doing a little discussion or a little debrief on the chapter, a little thoughts that that comes in your head. So I believe that you let me go. You let me go. Oh, so you mean that you would pretend? I didn't expect him to hit such a young woman. Yeah, you can see that Heathcliff, sorry, has no limit, and is ready to do whatever he can to get what he wants. So he's ready to do anything to get what he wants. So how are you? I'm good, thank you, Ada. How are you? Did you have a nice weekend? Yeah, it's very nice to see you too. Yes, or maybe you would have then you have to be able to kind of escape from him. You would have to maybe pretend that you're on his side, and then I don't know, but he's so powerful now that he doesn't see any limits. He's really obsessed to get rich. Yes, again, we can see that he's already thought through the whole thing, because he's planning on putting a tenant in at Thrushcross Grange. So that's the reason why he wants her daughter to marry her son, because this way he perfectly knows that his son will die before him. So as we know, all the women who inherit a house or any goods, any property, will not own it, but it will be her husband. And because her husband, Linton, will die soon, then who's going to get the house? Heathcliff himself will become the owner of Thrushcross Grange. And this is how, well, it's not exactly official, but you can see that Heathcliff is already thinking ahead of the about the ownership of this house, that yeah, that's only what he think about, and he's ready to do everything he can again and again to get rich, and also to get Edgar Linton angry and sad, and to just bother him and make everything that will make him cross and make him miserable as well. So I'm also currently reading the original book. Are you? I can understand a bit of his bitterness. Nice. So did you buy the actual original, this edition, or the Penguin Classics? Or do you have another edition? I see, in German. Ah, okay. I'm so sorry that I can't attend your live readings. I love your reading very much. That's so sweet. Yes, nice. Great. Yeah. Yeah, it's much stronger. You've got much more details in the original book, but it's yeah, it's very evident that Heathcliff here is only driven by his hunger for you've got the Penguin Classics German version. That's nice. Yeah. And I love these editions, because you've got a lot of details and footnotes, a lot of information. You've got the introduction, and a lot of that helps you get into the context of the book. Then you've got the biographical notice of Ellis and Acton Bell, which are Emily and Anne Bronte, which it's their pseudonyms at the time, their first publication of Wuthering Heights, and I think it was Agnes Grey. They were both published in one book. So that's why I like Penguin Readers. You've got a lot of extra information to help you understand the novel. Yeah. Right. So it was lovely to meet you again tonight. And that's it for me. And I will see you tomorrow to read chapter 12. There is a slight, so tomorrow we will meet more likely around 6:30. But I'm not sure. Tomorrow might be a bit tricky, so I'm not exactly sure what time I get back home. So I hope I'll be able to do the live tomorrow at 6:30. But I might not have the time. I'm not sure. Um, because you never know with the traffic. So hopefully I'll be able, because I have another event in the evening. So we'll see if I manage to squeeze the live reading in between. Otherwise, I will do 2 lives on Wednesday. So I will make sure you check on my stories. I will update about this tomorrow. I will let you know. Yes, I have a lot more information in the book. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so hopefully tomorrow at 6:30. Otherwise, yeah, so I will say see you tomorrow. Otherwise, it will be on Wednesday. So I keep you posted tomorrow. Bye bye. See you. Have a beautiful evening.